What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Matthew Anthony Hawkins here with another Around Chilliwack podcast episode. I hope you're having a great week. It's been a while. We've taken a break, but we're back. And this episode is something special. We've got a local musician. We also have a little interview with Jason Lum, who has decided to run for city council again. Have a listen. All right, I'm sitting down cross country, across North America. Is that how we'd say this, Eric?
I would say so. It's,
there's some miles between us.
Yeah, there's a lot of miles.
So I'm sitting down talking with Erik J Matthews, musician, friend, and he's currently in Nashville doing a little bit of a tour. Why don't you tell us who you are and what are you doing right now, Erik?
What I'm doing right now, I am sitting in bed. It is 2:15 p.m. It is not snowing like it is in Calgary, from what I've heard.
Yeah, or Edmonton.
Yeah, or Edmonton, or Prince George.
Yeah.
It is. It's just a warm day. The hurricane is out east in the Carolinas right now, and they say that by the time it hits us, it will be a storm, and it will be nothing to worry about.
So when you say hits us, where are you right now, Erik?
I am just
besides in bed.
Oh, sorry. I am just south of Nashville, Tennessee, just a few miles south of the city.
Good stuff. And why you were a Chilliwack resident? You quit your job, you packed up your van, loaded up your guitar, and you drove down to Nashville. Why?
Well, that's what people say living the dream of a musician is, right? Or a songwriter.
Yeah.
The reality was that's basically what it is I got to a point where playing live shows, hosting open mics, playing original music, teaching, session work, recording studio stuff. And I just needed a little bit of a change because as any person who strives to do something where there's a drive for them or there's something that's pulling them towards something, you're always climbing the walls. And I needed to just get a release of some sort. So yeah, I just took my stuff, sold most of my stuff, and drove across the country and recorded a bunch of my songs in acoustic form. Yeah. And then decided, well, I'm going to go across the country and try and get people to listen to it and see what they like and get some more exposure. I've done it before. I went across the country touring before. This time I did it on my own, and I just want to see where they went. And I ended up finishing the rest of the album, the tracks in Ontario, just because I had a place that I could go to. It was a nice home that I could go to, close family friend of mine, and I could just relax and be at ease for a few weeks to just let it go and not feel the strain of, because when you leave so abruptly like that, even though it was planned, but still a huge change.
How was the process of just selling off your stuff and because I can see how people would have a hard time with that. People get so attached to physical things that what was that like just seeing your stuff go out the door?
It's kind of surreal. I didn't really think about it at the time. It was more just, with the 24-hour bidding and all that stuff going on in town there. Yeah. You want people, you're like, come on, show up. And you're
just trying to get rid of it.
But then you realize, damn, I can't, I don't have anything to eat now, or I don't have a microwave, which I don't use, or, all of a sudden you realize there's things that you needed that you've already sold.
Yeah. Did you find it that big of a deal though?
Not until I gave notice at my apartment. Yeah. Then I realized, okay, I'm going to be homeless.
Weird.
And that's the hardest part is, wow, now everywhere is your home, and everywhere, or nowhere is your home and everywhere is your home. You know what I mean? I'm driving around. Every city or every town I drive in is as much my home as it isn't my home, because I don't have a home.
That's crazy.
And there's a lot of anxiety built around that.
That's it's so cool to watch. Like, so you can follow Erik on. He's more prolific on Facebook. He does have a post on Instagram now.
Yes,
and,
I'm up to.
You're up to one now. One post.
Yeah, that was late last night.
Yeah, and so you can follow along with Erik on Facebook, and just it's such a cool journey to see you doing all this. And people might be wondering, like, why around Chilliwack? Why are you doing a podcast with this guy? Well, you are a Chilliwack resident. Why did you settle in Chilliwack for as long as you did?
Well, I'm familiar with the area. I grew up in Abbotsford as a little child, in the Clearbrook side, and my family ended up moving up to Prince George around 1989, and then I ended up moving back to Vancouver in the early 2000s to sort of pursue music, and that's where I was based for basically ever since. What happened was I ended up moving to Toronto. Seems so scattered, but I ended up moving to Toronto around 2011 and ended up taking a job at a music conservatory just north of Toronto.
So did you have like a music background prior to that then? Like you said you were seeking music, like you were looking at it in Vancouver. Like what basically what I'm trying to cut to is like, why was music always part of your life leading up to this?
Oh yeah, sorry. Music, yeah. I mean, I started playing guitar in grade 4.
And why guitar?
Because I'll throw my parents under the bus. They didn't want to pay the money for renting band instruments in school, like clarinet or trumpet or anything like that. And guitar was offered for free at that time. There's like in the classroom, there's like 30 acoustic guitars hanging up along the wall, and the teacher taught it for free. Yeah. And said, "Would you like to play guitar?" And I said, "Yeah." I mean, my dad played guitar, and some of my uncles did, but that was sort of a great transition. And I mean, I say that sort of, in a funny way, looking back at it, that my parents didn't want to pay for the rentals, but they really didn't. And it was, well, guitar's offered and it's free, so take it. And I just went with it and learned on my own just how to play.
And that was before the internet, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, but the whole thing with Chilliwack, to get back to that point, was that coming back to BC after playing in bands and teaching all over the place. Yeah. Chilliwack, my parents ended up moving down with my grandparents and my sister down from Prince George, and they located in Chilliwack, they relocated south to Chilliwack. And for us, it seemed like that was the place to go because at least there was familiarity, and it was less expensive than, there's no way I could get back into the Vancouver market. Right. So settled on Chilliwack and planted that as the home base. Yeah.
And so while you were in Chilliwack, what was the music scene like for you? What were you up to?
Well, for me, it was a little slow for the first year just because I didn't get out and do anything. I just sort of focused on writing, learning how to record, learning how to, like with my own recording studio, with my system and everything. But then I finally took a step out, and all of a sudden it just opened up wide open. Right. It was within a few months. I was all of a sudden sitting in several bands and being asked to play here and there and just fully immersed. And the scene was a very supportive scene. And I remember telling some of the people, because they would say, "Well, you're such a great guitar player, and you write some great songs." And I said, "Well, don't we don't have to talk about that too much because eventually you're just going to get sick of me." Like, I don't mind the honeymoon season for a little while. The honeymoon can go on a little bit longer for me here.
For sure.
So, but that was essentially it. And it just evolved from there. I started working, teaching guitar and bass and ukulele at at the lesson center in town.
Which is how I got to know you.
That's right.
My son wanted to learn how to play guitar, and the teacher that we happened to get just happened to be you. And and it was all, would we say it's all downhill from there? I guess so.
Yeah, if that's the
No, but like we've developed this friendship that it's, we like-minded. And so it's been really cool to see this journey that you've been on. Your acoustic guitar in your hand and just seeing everything that you've been doing in town. And now, I tell people about you because it's insane. Like so many people talk about having a dream and they rarely actually ever do anything about it, let alone sell all their stuff, pack up and drive across the continent to chase after it. So it's, kudos to you for not listening to people, because I'm sure there's people that have told you you're crazy and just going for it.
Worse than that, but I won't get into that.
Well, I was trying to keep it, the PG version of it.
Yeah, of course.
Or the G-rated version.
Yeah.
But no,
I appreciate those compliments and the encouragement that you've always given me, and the encouragement a lot of people have given me, and it's great, but it's also,
it's got to be scary as hell.
It is. I also have severe anxiety problems, and I've had that for a long time in my life. So this is also another thing for me was, I have to do this because, one thing, and I mean, I'm not going to go on any sort of mental illness awareness, anything like that. But I will say that people talk about it so much these days. And one thing I realize is it never goes away.
Right.
It's there with you. You'll never be cured of it. So you have to realize taking, 4-second breath in, 4-second breath out, realizing, is it rational? What are your feelings? And still it's going to be there. And for me, it was sort of, I still just needed to do this also to sort of show myself, you know what, it's actually okay to do this.
Right.
No matter what happens. So it's more than just pursuing the dream of playing music. It's sort of, trying to survive.
Well, yeah, you're grabbing the bull by the horns and you're saying, let's dance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you are chasing your dream, but you're also, you're throwing yourself out there just to see what you're made of.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it feels like you're on top of the world. I've had some great experiences here where, okay, it shows that all of the work and the hours and everything's paid off. I'm laying in my van in a truck stop in Brandon, Manitoba at 4 a.m, hearing the trucks pull in and out of the station and just saying, man, I wonder, what am I doing here? And my tinnitus is killing me because it's so isolated in the van. I hear the ringing and you're just, well, tomorrow's another day. And where are we going tomorrow? Oh, we're going to Thunder Bay tomorrow. Okay, well, let's see how that goes.
Yeah. So when you were doing your drive down to Nashville, what are some highlights for places you stopped in along the way? Aside from where you, obviously, when you recorded your acoustic session, aside from that.
Sure. Are we talking musically or just...
you like following along on Facebook, like you had some spots that you kind of picked out that were definitely had some music connection that you were sharing about. So maybe some highlights of along that journey that musically that you were stick out for you.
Sure. Well, I went. It's funny. I went to Orillia, Ontario for the first time ever. I had lived about an hour away from there for a while, years ago, and I decided to go there strictly for the fact that that's where Gordon Lightfoot is from. Mm-hmm. And I heard there was a statue there in this park, and I went and saw it, and I played there, and just paid my little tribute like people do. And I'm known to do that. I go to places where people are from or where people are buried, and I go to their sites and I pay my tribute to them because they're what inspired me in this. And it was great. And I ended up going to this for the first time. I just decided to go to check out this little open mic. It was more of a seniors open mic, and it was actually done at sort of an old retirement home. So I ended up playing for a bunch of seniors, very elderly people in their sort of like their cafeteria or their little common space with a bunch of other people, which was such a nice experience to see just how happy they were to have people sit around and play songs for them. And I mean, I was by far whether I was performing or in attendance, I was the youngest person by decades. But it was a great experience to sit in and just, it just felt nice. It felt like there was no angle. There was nothing needed. I didn't have to feel like I needed to network with anybody. I didn't have to try to push my card or try and promote anything. I just played, and people were just so nice, just so nice and friendly about it.
Mm-hmm.
But then afterwards, this older gentleman came up to me and told me that, he said, "Well, I heard that you mentioned that you liked Gordon Lightfoot." And I said, "I did." And he said, "Well, I've known Gordon Lightfoot for over 30 years. And he ends up taking me on a drive past Gordon Lightfoot's childhood home in Aurelia.
Yeah.
Like right after that. And then he says, "Well, you want to go hang out?" So we went out and had a coffee for about an hour. And he's just telling me all these old stories about Gordon Lightfoot. And it's a side of the guy I would never have heard from anybody else. And it was just such an amazing thing just to happen to go there for no reason except to pay homage to a statue and sing Early Morning Rain in front of it.
Yeah.
To then go to this retirement place and then have a guy who actually knows him personally tell me these personal stories. It was just, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. So when you even like tell that story yourself, like earlier you were talking about the anxiety and dealing with that. When you listen to that story, does that anxiety just kind of melt away? Like it feels like any sort of anxious thoughts you had going, even just going to that open mic night, does it feel like it's worth it that you just, like you'd never be able to replicate that experience again?
Absolutely. That's a one in a lifetime experience of that, of that spectrum.
Yeah.
As for the anxiety, yeah, it lifted everything. It felt so great. Of course, at first I was going, well, okay, I'm going to follow some guy somewhere. I don't know who he is because that's how I am.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest part of the anxiety of that is trying to retell the story now and trying to put it into certain smaller paragraphs and kind of sitting here thinking about it and going, oh, am I taking up too much time talking about this? That's how my mind works, like right now. And I'm just giving you a real-time moment of how it's working.
Oh,
and I don't know if the voice shows that or not, but it gets into that.
You get too analytical about it.
Yeah, so I'll stop and let you continue.
We're going to take a break, and go to Jason Lum. But before we do, I'd love for you to play a song for us, Erik. Would you be up for that?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah? So you have a new album out. Why don't you just quickly tell us a little bit about your album that you have out, and then when we come back after Jason, I'm going to ask you some more questions about it. But just briefly tell us what your album is, where people can get it, etc.
All right, here's the plug.
Okay.
It's Erik J. Matthews, E-R-I-K. I say that because that's the way my parents spelled it when I was born.
Well, there you go. And you're stuck with it.
Yes, and I'm stuck with it, and that's fine. But people are always telling me, "Oh, I'm trying to find you, and I can't find you," and they spell with a C, so they can't. So it's erikjmatthews.bandcamp.com.
Yeah.
And it's also erikjmatthews.com. I have a website; it has links all over the place for that. The album is titled "The Old Man's Garage," the Studio G1 acoustic sessions. Studio G1 is my studio, and that's where it was recorded. So it's a bare bones album consisting of acoustic guitars and vocals, and I just tried to be bare bones about it, bringing the song back to the sound that can get to an original form sitting around a campfire.
Yeah,
the specific release. Yeah,
good stuff. And one of my favorite songs that you have on there, I'm hoping you can play for me. We kind of set this up beforehand.
Whoa. This is spontaneous, Matt.
Oh, it's spontaneous. Sorry. There is some more spontaneity to this later, but Another 100 Years. I heard you play it at Tractor Grease here in Chilliwack, and you have it on the album, and wondering if you wouldn't mind playing that for us before we head to break with Jason Lum.
Absolutely. It's actually and it's the first cut on the album too.